My name is Colin. I have an insane story about my younger stepbrother, William. I will give first a brief backstory to all this. When I was about 12 years old, my own mom passed away after battling cancer for about almost 6 months. I took it very hard, and my dad he was heartbroken. But he decided to dedicate himself to raising me as his promised mom just shortly before she passed away. And he did that for a number of years until he ran into a woman which he eventually got engaged and got married to. I was actually very happy to that to my dad who actually found someone new. Even at the time when he introduced me to this new woman, I was really at first hesitating to have a new mom in my life. But she was such a beautiful woman and she was very kind. And on top of all that, I knew that she had a son named William. He was only about a year younger than me. But that is not a part of the story, just to be mentioned though. But anyways, it all happened when I was just about 20 years and he was about 19 at the time. We had been as a family for about a year. After they got married, I was really happy to have a stepbrother. I was the only child, and I just always wanted to have a sibling. But since my own mom passed away, and now when I was in my 20s, I was fine to have a stepbrother though. We were actually getting along well, and but it didn't last though. When I introduced Naomi, who is my fiance, now wife, it's all changed. When Naomi was introduced to my stepmom and William, well, let's say I'll later find out that William fell immediately in love with Naomi. They talked a few times when she came over to the house. And I was like really happy that my stepbrother was actually getting along with my fiance. And even when I introduced her to my stepmom, she was actually very happy to that I found someone to be married with soon. For, of course, it didn't suit well enough for William. You understand why? Because a few times after that, when she started coming over to the house, either for dinner or pick me up for something, my stepbrother William tried to convince her that he was a much good-looking and smarter guy than me. Even though it's only 1 year apart, she told me all this, of course, and I wasn't happy. I told William not to do this to my fiance, which somehow triggered his anger. And this is the only time I can tell that I had never seen him such anger. Even though we have been living together as a family for just 1 year, I had never seen him ever have such temper at all. And I was really not even frightened. I was more confused and shocked. And even though, even though I told him that I told Colin, I told William that there's no way she would even do anything to change mind. And even though that Naomi told him also that to simply give him a chance to be with her. But I told her, and in fact, even William tried to tell me that Naomi had told him and that she was considered to be with him. But I know that was not even that was a lie because me and Naomi have been dating since senior year of high school. and were actually getting married soon. So why would she jeopardize our happiness, our future plans of getting married? And in fact, William tried over and over to convince Naomi. Even his last attempt was to provide with the proof that I was cheating on her with a different girl, who turned out to be Naomi's younger sister, who is only 18, who is still in high school, just to be mentioned that. And even though Naomi's sister and I were really good friends, in fact, she had been asked to be Naomi's maid of honor for the wedding. And since Naomi often worked late, and since her younger sister was willing to help around with the wedding for all that stuff, so it often that I went off to meet up with her sister, and we were talking about the wedding, and of course, she mentioned some of the ideas that she had for Naomi's bachelorette party, and I mentioned some of my own bachelor party ideas, and we were just getting along. And that my younger stepbrother William had the audacity to put me in such situation and make me to look bad that I was cheating on my own fiancée with her own younger sister, who is only 2 years younger than me, which is the most insane thing. But luckily, though, Naomi didn't even believe it because she knew that her sister was helping us with our upcoming wedding, so it backfired on him. And even when I had enough, I told my dad, who also had enough about this, because apparently I have been telling my stepdad, and then I told my stepmom, and she had enough of William's behavior. She told him simply to find another girl to date and not ruin anyone else's engagement. Of course, he flipped out, but eventually I wasn't in at the time. I wasn't even living with my dad anymore. I was living with Naomi. So I just told him simply also to find someone else, and I want him to be happy. So after that, some time passed, and me and Naomi got married. William told me over a family reunion how he felt such an idiot, how he treated Naomi, and before anything else, he had also turned out and found his own fiancée, and we were all happy for him. So I forgave William, of course, and he still is my beloved brother, even though we were not biological blood related, but he's still as part of my family. And I'm really hoping to be there for his own wedding soon. So William, I'm happy for you. I really am so happy. To have a new step parent in the family is an experience that a lot of people going through all the time. But I actually heard stories of some going through to having such crazy, insane stepmom or stepdad. I never believed that I was never going to have a step parent myself, but I did, and not for a good experience at all. I lost my own mom when I was about 12 years old. She passed away in a car accident, and I took it very hard. I took it very seriously hard for months. And even my dad was very heartbroken because they were so in love. They were so deep in love and they cared so much each other. But then my dad decided to raise me on his own for some time, And the good thing is that for my mom, she taught me how to do some of the basic household chores like cleaning, laundry, cooking, and some of the things that could have been valuable experience in for my own one day when I move out. But around when I was about 17, of course I'm much older now. My name is Justin, by the way. So when I was about 17, my dad actually announced that he was getting married to his long-term girlfriend. I know that he was dating a woman at the time. I actually met her a few times when she came over for dinner and all that. And I was actually happy to do my dad who finally found someone who could make him happy. After they got married, she moved in. And at the time, things was actually kind of, well, like a normal family. Her name was Cindy. She was very kind when my dad was around, but if it was just me and her, it was like a switch. From a good, kind person, she turned into this evil, wicked stepmom. She told me to do the things around the house. Like, I was the one to be doing the cleaning, cooking, and all that. And with my and she even took my money from my part-time job. And I even had a lot of money saved up in my own room for a new car. Yes, I have a license at the time, but I didn't have my car. I had saved up maybe, I think it was around $2,500. And one day when I came home from school, I found out that money was completely gone. I knew who took it. But even if I tried to tell my dad about it, he would try to brush it off and tell me that I probably used that money or I lost it somewhere or threw it out by accident. Okay, first of all, I had I had that money in a small box in my closet in a up in a high shelf so that I will be to reach it, and of course I will always knew that was the one that the money. And first of all, I want to be that stupid. I knew which box contains other things that I was gonna throw out and some other things. But anyways, my dad was he saw this as a blind eye because even though I was really happy to have my own money, I was so close to getting a used car. But after finding out my money was gone and that she took even my part-time jobs and money, my own salary that I work hard for, it's like, why? I tried to confront her, but she tried to tell me to put it on me because, and she said, every money that you make for your part-time job goes to the family first, like meaning her and my dad, but mainly her. I later find out that she was using most of her the money in going to the bar or do some gambling. I was like, so every time when I had some part-time job money for my salary, I hid it. Likely that was a good thing because I knew a good things of good spots in my own room that I could hide it. Even though I knew that from time to time that she looked for it but never found it. And anyways, another thing is about the time I was also dating a girl named Lisa. She was around the same age, and in fact, we went to the same high school, and I was so in love with her. Dad loved her as well, because she was the most kind person ever that you could ever imagine. But my stepmom, Cindy, told me I wasn't allowed to date Lisa. In her words, she was the most stupid girl ever and ugly. I was like, how dare you to tell me about my girlfriend? And in fact, I've been dating her since the first year of high school, and we had even considered maybe one day to get married. But anyways, I told this to Lisa. She told me I was probably should collect evidence to prove to my dad how Cindy had been treating me at home. Of course, I managed to hit some cameras around the house, like in the kitchen, living room, and even my room, just in case. And good thing too, because when my dad was at home, she treated me as if I was like her own son. But when he left, it was completely switched. But after a few weeks of being, or at least a few days of collecting this information, all these videos, I put it in a CD or a CD for my dad to watch. At first, I had tried to tell him that how she treated me, but he didn't believe me. But now when I have hard proof, it is not like he couldn't just dismiss any of this. After he saw it, it was hard to not deny it. So, she even tried to convince my dad that was an act, but he wasn't buying it. He told her to pack her things and leave the house. And sometime afterwards, he even put for divorce, and if she tried to come back over and try to convince him that she was wrong in not getting through this divorce and that she was willing to give it to work it out. But my dad wouldn't let her. So she left and eventually get divorced. And last I was heard, she was living on her own and had a very hard time to find out, or at least to find a new partner to be with. And I'm also glad that Cindy is no longer my stepmom. I told my dad if you want to find someone, make sure she isn't like that at all in the first place. And cameras, well, I removed them, but if my dad find a new lady, I will put them back up again as a precaution. And as so far, my dad do in fact start dating a new lady only about 6 months after. So far, this seems going well. And for Cindy, stay away from me and my family, you crazy ex-stepmom. To have such insane step-parent is the most shocking experience that a lot of people may had going through. And I am among the many people that actually went through similar experience myself. My name is Victoria, and all this happened when I was about 18 years old. And of course, the story is about my crazy stepdad, Mark. A brief backstory is necessary. About before my mom actually met Mark, well, she was married to my dad, but he died in a climbing accident since my dad was the very much outgoing outdoor person. And one weekend, he and a few friends actually went to do some rock climbing, and long story short, he fell and he didn't make it. Me and my older brother, Simon, who is only a few years older, and at the time when this all happened, he was 22 years old. He and I was very close. And sometime after my dad's passing, my mom starts seeing this guy, Mark. Mark was actually an old acquaintance to my dad, and my mom actually met Mark when my dad was still alive. So they started dating, and Mark was always kind and helpful. In fact, I remember him when I was a little bit younger, when he often came over to my house where he and my dad was drinking or just watching some games. But anyways, around 6 months after, around 6 months before he and my mom actually got married, he moved in. But after the wedding, things started going downhill really fast. He demanded I give him all of my allowance and even my part-time job money all the time. Cause his words, women should obey men no matter what, and she was forbidding me, and that I was forbidden to even have any money except for my mom, who was also working, and that she was the one who paid the bills. Mark at the time was unemployed, and the money that he took from me, and he even took some of my mom's money, but not much, but mostly always mine. And he always went to the local bar where he drank and do some gambling, all that kind of stuff. And how do I know that he was actually there? Well, thanks to my brother who passed the bar a few times on his way home or to work. At the time, my brother didn't live with us anymore. But just think, he saw often Mark at the bar either leaving or entering the place or just standing outside, talking to some other people. I was furious. I even tried to hide some of my earned, hard-working money from my part-time job. But it didn't work. No matter how much I tried, I even tried to tell my mom about this. But she brushed it off and told me maybe I was just forgetting about it. Or maybe I used it for something, which I didn't. I was saving up the money for something in the future. I was considering perhaps one day go to college, but eventually I never did, even though this is not irrelevant part of the story. And I had enough. So I managed to save a solid money over my um, boyfriend's place. I was also dating this guy, Henry. He was the most beloved guy who anyone can even ask for. He was like my brother, loyal, strong, and very defensive. He was very protective of me and others. But just saying. And even though my mom was actually accepted Henry by Mark, now that was a different matter. Mark totally forbade me to date Henry. In his words, he was a bad guy. He was not good enough. I was like, I tried to ask him more for like why he was such a bad guy or bad boy, and why he wasn't even good enough. But he never gave me any actual answers or any explanations why, in his terms of words, that he was a bad guy. I was like, first maybe Mark assumed that Henry was some drug dealer, or maybe that he was a part of a gang or something, which both things is false. Henry was a good guy. And I managed, like I said earlier, I kept sort of my earned money from my part-time job in a secret stash over Henry's house, which we eventually were trying to save up enough money so that we can buy our own place. And even though that despite Mark's attempt to forbade me to even spend time with Henry, it was hard because we went to the same high school and we even had some classes. And even afterwards, we spent a lot of time at his house. And for the record, Henry's family loved me. They considered me as part of the family, even though we weren't even engaged or anything, but I was happy. And even after we finished high school, I chose not to go to college. But after some time, Mark, he demanded me to start working more to earn more money so that he can spend on the bar or other things. But of course, I refused, which made him have his temper. He tried to convince my mom that I was using my money for something bad, but she didn't believe him. Because, first of all, she knows me for over 18 years now. So yeah, good luck, Mark. But anyways, I was getting enough of this. So, one day when Mark was over at the bar, I took, with the help of my brother Simon and Henry's help, for to move some of my belongings. Like, I even had a few things left, since Mark had the audacity to sell off sort of my own belongings to earn money, which I don't mind. It was mostly old, boring things, anyways, but still. And then I left the house and moved to my new place, which me and Henry were renting. And we even handed over the proof of Mark's behavior to my mom, and like it was containing the evidence of him taking my money to go to the bar. And here's the thing: he said many times that he was looking for a new job. Ever since he moved in, and even after the wedding, he never did. He spent all the money that I earned and his and my mom's to go to the bar all the time, and even gambling. She could not believe it. So for over this time, she believed him. But now she had enough. She had even started to notice some of her own money, and even some belongings in the house had gone missing. Some were not even that much of value, or even any family heirloom or something like that, but most a few things that he took and pawned and took the money to buy beer or anything like it. So she was getting ready for the divorce against Mark. Good thing too. But when Mark learned that I had left the house and that he was getting a divorce from my mom, he blamed all that on me. But I told him this was the last time, and it was on his own fault and not anyone else. I mean, I even tried to tell him, you tried to get telling my mom many times to go looking for work, but you never did. You lie about that. And you took my money, and even some of my mom's money, for go to the bar gambling. That is on your own fault. We never forced you to do this. And he tried to make my mom change her mind about this divorce. But my mom was a quite stubborn woman at the time and still is. She was just simply had enough. So long story short, she did get divorced. She kicked him out, and we were happy. We later learned that he was arrested for DUI and even a car chase on a highway. And yeah, and that he even caused an accident, even though there were no casualties, good thing, which made him end up behind bars for at least a few years. So Mark, even though there's no chance for even us for ever meet again, first, I would never let you to be invited to my future wedding, and I'm very much glad that you are no longer my stepdad. If my mom would eventually find a guy, I really hope he is complete opposite from you. So stay away from my family and me.